Let's talk about the astrology of Nipsey Hussle. Here's a Zodiac fact that you didn't know. On March 31st, 2019, Los Angeles County lost beloved musician and community leader Nipsey Hussle when he was gunned down outside of his store in broad daylight. The man responsible for taking Nipsey's life was a man by the name of Eric Holder, but at one point in time, him and Nipsey were close friends, so what made him pull the trigger? First, let's look at some astrology. On the day Nipsey Hussle was born, he had the Deianira asteroid, the planet Uranus, and the Echo asteroid all in the sign of Sagittarius. Deianira represents how we will be victimized. Echo represents how we will lose our voice. And Sagittarius rules over philosophical principles and ideologies. And so one of the ways you can interpret that is that his astrology says he will be victimized and he will lose his voice to certain philosophical principles and ideologies. So how does this tie back into his murderer? Moments before he took Hussle's life, Eric and Nipsey were actually engaged in a very heated conversation. During the conversation, Hussle mentioned there might be paperwork on him, slang referring to records indicating Holder had cooperated with the police. Holder and Hussle were both members of the infamous Rolling 60s set of the Crip Street Gang. For those of you who don't know, in the gang world, being a snitch is one of the worst crimes you could ever commit. That's one of the worst rules you could break. You do not want to be called a snitch. And Eric Holder's lawyer argued that being accused of snitching by someone like Nipsey Hussle of his stature in front of other gang members in the heart of Rolling 60s territory triggered his client. This was not a pleasant conversation between homies who were chopping it up. This was a serious accusation, Jansen said during his closing argument. Mr. Holden Jr. took it serious as it was. He knows the consequences of being called a snitch in this manner. Now, full disclaimer, I am not from California. I'm not from Los Angeles. I'm not a part of that life. But I can say with confidence that Los Angeles gang culture is not the same in the 21st century as it was in the 80s and the 90s. Also, Nipsey Hussle wasn't as involved with street politics in 2019 as he was maybe when he was like in his early 20s or late teens. And not to mention, Eric Holder has a few screws loose up there. He has a few screws loose. And the prosecutors even stated that jealousy may have played a huge role in why this accusation suddenly triggered Holder so much. Nipsey Hussle was a Grammy-nominated artist who was beloved by his community. Eric Holder's music career was trying. Either way, if that was truly Eric Holder's motive for pulling the trigger, it unfortunately validates the meaning of Deianira and Echo in Nipsey Hussle's birth chart. He was victimized and he lost his voice to the principles and ideologies of street politics. And here's what ties it all together and makes it a little bit even worse. This right here, this is the planet Uranus. Uranus in astrology rules over our friend circles and our community. And so with Nipsey Hussle having his Uranus in Sagittarius, his Deianira in Sagittarius, and his Echo in Sagittarius, this could mean that the people who victimize him, who take his voice away from him, are people who are members of his community, of his social group, of his friend groups. At one point in time, Nipsey and Eric were friends. They were homies. They were in the same gang together. And you see this number 10 right here? This represents the 10th house, and the 10th house in astrology represents your career, your legacy, your reputation. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I was a little bit hesitant to mention the 10th house because one of the ways that can be interpreted is that he's victimized or he loses his voice to his career, to his legacy, to his reputation, to his social economic status. But when you think about it, that's not entirely incorrect. Nipsey Hussle was trying to change and improve his community for the better. And when you have the type of position that Nipsey Hussle had, you could kind of say he was stuck between two worlds of that life of the Rolling 60s member, and then the community man who's trying to get people off the streets, to keep people from going into the gangs. At the end of the day, the Sagittarius energy in Nipsey Hussle's chart shows that he was just trying to be known for being progressive, for pushing towards growth, a brighter and better future for himself and the people who relied on him, the people who cared about him. That man should still be alive. Eric Holder was sentenced to, That being said, Eric Holder was given a sentence of 60 years to life in prison. Let this be a lesson to anybody who's watching right now. Want to learn more about your zodiac sign? Sign up for a reading, link in my bio.